Good afternoon or good morning, in some cases, to everybody. Welcome to this Leadership Symposium pre-conference session, Incorporating Mindfulness in the Workplace. And during the pandemic, some workplaces, most workplaces for state and territory AT programs, and for everybody else have changed significantly, whether it's working from home or other ways that our jobs have changed. One thing we know for sure is that there are all sorts of new challenges, and a bunch of these can cause added stress, anxiety, and everything that's been happening over the years certainly influences our health, our ability to focus at work, relationships, and pretty much every aspect of our work and personal lives. Mindfulness, as we know, is fast becoming an established approach to improving personal and team performance in the workplace. Our presenter today is Laura Bryan, who is going to share ideas about how we can incorporate mindfulness in our workplaces. Dr. Bryan is the Employee Assistance Program Director at McLaughlin Young Group. In addition to 20 years of clinical experience, she's an experienced facilitator who has taught and supervised at Pfeiffer University, St. Mary's University in San Antonio, and Texas Tech University. A licensed marriage and family therapist, Laura is a clinical fellow and approved supervisor with the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. She holds a Doctor of Philosophy in Marriage and Family Therapy from Texas Tech University, a master's degree in Human Development and Family Studies from Texas Tech, and a bachelor's degree in Psychology from Furman University. And before I turn it over to Laura, just move to the next slide and we'll cover a couple of housekeeping items. Just a reminder, of course, to see the captions, click on the CC button, closed caption button at the bottom of your screen. Please enter any questions or comments in the chat window, and comments will be addressed at the conclusion of the presentation. Just a couple of reminders, upcoming events, save the date for a couple of other Leadership Symposium pre-conference sessions. Both will be starting at 3 o'clock Eastern. One will be February 18th with Dr. Dave Eddyburn on assistive technology, understanding the evidence that supports our practices. And then we'll have another on March 9th. Janet Peters and Cynthia Curry from CAST will be talking about the National Center on Accessible Educational Materials. You will be receiving a post-webinar survey, so please make sure that you are able to complete that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bryan.
All right, thank you, Marty, very much. Welcome everybody to your pre-conference. I hope you have a great symposium. I'm going to actually move back to this slide, just a little bit about this presentation. We are going to be talking about mindfulness, both personally as well as in the professional space. And so I just wanted you to take some time to kind of sit back and get comfortable. In addition to the evaluation that you'll receive after the presentation, you're also going to get a copy of these slides, plus it's being recorded. So don't feel like you have to take notes or really, try to remember the content. Just kind of let it absorb and see how it feels to you, see how it kind of fits to you. There's going to be a couple of opportunities for you to participate, both in the chat, just like kind of usual, and I'll ask some questions and you can respond in the chat. Just remember that any response that you give in the chat is associated with you. It's not kept private unless you indicate as such specifically in the chat. And there's another way you're going to be able to participate, which will be to go to menti.com. You see it there at the bottom of the slide. So either on a different tab on the screen that you're looking at right now, or you can even use your smartphone. Go to menti.com, MENTI.com. They're going to ask you for a code. And when we get to that point in the presentation, I'll give you that code. And that'll be a way all of us can respond, and you'll be able to see everybody's responses. They'll be kind of aggregated all together. That'll make more sense when we get closer to it. But you'll need menti.com in a little while, and I'll give you the code later on. Okay, so just sit back and enjoy your time learning about mindfulness, and specifically mindfulness in the workplace. All right, so I want to start with a little bit of a warm-up activity. Yes, even right where you are in this space. I'm going to ask you to do something called stepping out of autopilot, which is what we're going to refer to kind of how most of us have to deal with the overwhelming stress of our days. But I want us to practice stepping out of that. This is kind of the very basis of mindfulness itself. So just where you are right now, kind of get comfortable in your seat. I just want you to notice 3 things in your current environment that you've never noticed before, okay? You might have been in the same space like all the time over the past 10 months or so, but just try to kind of open your senses and notice something maybe that you haven't noticed before. It might be something that you see that you haven't seen before, something that you can hear, even something that you smell in your current space. Just 3 things. I can see the reflection of the plant that's behind me in the picture frame in front of me. Never really noticed that before. It's kind of waving and the heater is blowing. Okay, so kind of just sense 3 things. And then I want you to notice 3 things you can feel. Okay, now usually when a therapist type like me talks about your feelings, we're talking about your emotions. But this time, like literally, I want you to notice what you feel, like physically. Okay, I noticed I've got a bracelet here, and I noticed the weight of it on my arm. I noticed the feel of the fabric of my pants. Okay, notice 3 things you can feel. And with those 2 things, kind of noticing different things you see, you hear, you smell, and now feeling, that sense that you have of kind of turning inward and being really present, really attentive to where you are right now, that's the very foundation of mindfulness. So what I want you to get from that is you've already got what it takes. You don't have to have any special training. You don't have to have any special props in order to incorporate mindfulness and even make it something that can be really useful for you in your day-to-day life. Okay, so you've already got what it takes. Let's talk specifically about what that might look like. So here's a general outline of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about where we are now, which, as you probably know, we could spend a whole hour on, but we won't. We're just going to kind of acknowledge where we're at and then talk about what a mindful alternative might look like, what kinds of choices you might have about being mindful, and then looking at how mindfulness might fit into just your daily, everyday life. We'll talk some about the trends and outcomes, some of the research that's been done specifically about mindfulness at work. And then my hope is that you'll be able to come away from here with an action plan, maybe for yourself personally, maybe for your workspace or the folks that you work with. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's start with where we are now. What is the cost of what I'm going to call a full mind? Okay, well, what we know about a full mind, kind of the sense of overwhelm and stress, is that it's very costly. Okay, both literally, financially, but also emotionally, physically, spiritually. And these are just some statistics. And I will say all of these are pre-2020. Okay, we'll probably be shocked by the numbers that come out after 2020. But $300 billion a year in costs related to stress. Okay. You'll notice that last bullet says OSHA has declared stress in the workplace an occupational hazard. Like literally, it's dangerous to us. And like I said, that's all even pre-2020. How has what's happened in the past year increased these costs of a full mind? The pandemic and kind of everything that's come out of that as we've tried to mitigate those effects. The social unrest, the political unrest, right? We kind of looking back can see why we have such full minds, why we feel stressed and overwhelmed. And what might some of the results of that stress and overwhelm be? These are some of the signs that you might notice that would let you know that you've got a really full mind. And we've divided them up into 4 categories. You can talk about these in all sorts of different ways, but I just want you to take a look at this table, read through some of these signs, and in the chat, so this will be your first opportunity to participate here, I just want you to put a 1, 2, or 3, or 4. How many of these boxes do you see yourself in, where you're experiencing some of the either physical, mental, emotional, or behavioral signs? If you'll just put a number in the chat. Okay. Got a 2. There's a 4. Okay, got some 3s and 4s. Kind of as you look at that, another 2s. Okay. 1, but mostly 0. Awesome. We're going to be looking for tips from you. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So my 3s and 4s, I'm particularly glad that you're here. Okay. You're in the right place. I'm hopeful that what I'm going to be talking about can be something that's really helpful to you. Even the 1s and 2s, maybe you'll even see something that you can make some adjustments to make things even better. And for those of you who are at like 0s and 1s, seriously, we're going to be talking later about the kinds of things that you found that work for you. And I definitely want to hear from you. Okay, so thanks very much for putting that stuff in the chat. There's another thing to kind of think about. Look at these boxes again and think about the people that you live with, the people that you work with. Okay, and kind of be thinking about, maybe what I'm seeing, what I'm recognizing in these other folks is results of a full mind, kind of this whole sense of stress and overwhelm that was already present with us long before 2020, but this past year has really exacerbated. So these are some of the signs. What are some other things, maybe more like behaviorally? What might I notice either in myself or other people when we're dealing with a full mind? So this is where we get back to that phenomenon I was talking about before as autopilot. And that's kind of a mindlessness. So if you've ever gotten to work and have no memory of how you got there, that's autopilot. That's like the literal kind of autopilot, right? But there are lots of things that we do in our day-to-day lives kind of on autopilot. We don't have to think about it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing unless you're kind of living there, right? If every day, kind of all day, you're spending in autopilot. It's actually a pretty normal response to stress. Our brains just, can't handle it anymore. And so they kind of shut off in a way. And doing that occasionally, doing that sometimes is actually pretty healthy. Living there, not so much. Why? Because of some of these things. We get into habits and routines. We're doing things the same way we've always done them, not because it's necessarily the best way to do it or the most efficient or productive way to do it, but because it's how we've always done it. And the thought of trying to think through changes is just like, I can't even go there. It's just too overwhelming. Okay. And so we result to making very impulsive and kind of reactive, automatic, sorry, get all choked up. Kind of automatic decision making instead of thinking things through. We try to multitask, doing multiple things at once, but I'll tell you, research shows you can't actually spend 100% on multiple things. So something is always losing out. Can also result in something called depersonalization, which is exactly what it sounds like. You kind of take the person out of it. We start treating other people as though they're not people. We might even treat ourselves like we're not human, like we're not supposed to need rest or might make mistakes. Okay. And that leads to this sense of judging, right? Not only are people not doing things right, but they're bad and stupid and wrong. And how could you ever believe that? Okay. Might notice a bit more of that kind of attitude. We get really scattered when we're on autopilot. If you've ever been looking for your glasses while they're on your face, or you're looking for your phone while it's in your hand, right? That sense of being everywhere but where you are, all of that's kind of that autopilot mindlessness. And that sense of feeling rushed, like I'm always putting out fires. I'm just jumping from one thing to the next, and I can't kind of sit and think and be thoughtful. All of that kind of feeds into, and then it gets into this really vicious cycle of the more rushed I am, the less time I have to sit and think, and the more rushed I am, and et cetera, et cetera. And again, we've kind of always done this to a certain extent. It's normal and relatively healthy. But this past year, with the additional stressors that we faced with the pandemic and the social and political unrest, you might have noticed yourself leaning on autopilot even more. Or again, think about the people that you work with, that you live with. If you've noticed over time, they've really changed, and maybe you're noticing some of these qualities instead of rushing to the judgment about, oh, you're, just an idiot and I can't deal with you anymore. I wonder if this is kind of your way of dealing with things by going on autopilot, and you're responding really reactively, and maybe I give you some grace and maybe even some ideas about how to turn things around. Okay, because you might be thinking, Laura, this is life, right? This is life post 2020, whatever it is 2021 is going to have in store for us. What else can I do, right? Well, that's what I want to talk to you about, is this idea of a mindful alternative, some choices that you can make instead. Okay. And the difference that this alternative provides for you is in being present. Okay. And so I want you to take a look at this picture, and this is actually where we're going to go to Minty. Okay. So go back to that screen, wherever you are going to go to minty.com, and you'll see at the top of this slide, there's your code 3207722. And once you put that code in, you should see this screen where you're going to use one word to describe the thought bubble. So I want you to take a look at this picture and give me one word to describe the thought bubble on the left. Okay, we've got these two characters here. You can kind of see what's going on in their minds. How would you describe thought bubble on the left? I'm going to give you another second to take a look at that and put in your responses. Okay. And then, so you're probably already familiar with word clouds. Basically what it does is when you contribute, it adds your contribution to what other people are saying. And the larger the word, the more people are choosing that particular description. Okay. So busy you missed the code. Excellent, Kathy. It's up at the top of that screen. Go to minty.com 3202722. And look at all these great words that we've got going on. It looks like chaos is probably our winner, but it's closely followed by busy, overwhelmed, overwhelming, chaotic, crowded, frenetic, right? Who can relate to thought bubble on the left? Okay, been there, done that, sometimes feel like I live there. All right, very good. So that was thought bubble on the left. And now what I'd like to do, oops, I clicked it too many times. All right. So now I want you to take a look at thought bubble on the right, and give me just a second. I'm going to reset those results. Okay. So thought bubble on the right, you should be able to just stay right there in that same screen. Give me a word to describe thought bubble on the right. Okay. Very different sorts of things going on for this character, right? A word for thought bubble on the right. Let's see what you think. Calm. Oh, calm's the big one. Peaceful, focused, manageable. Good word, right? Calming, kind of clear, exhale. You can just almost sense how relaxed this character is, right? Excellent. Okay, so one of the things I really want you to notice about thought bubble on the right, what's this character paying attention to? What's around them? They are present in their current situation, okay? Thought bubble on the left, everywhere but here, right? Can't hardly squeeze anything else into that thought bubble, but none of it is about where they're at, what's around them, their current environment, okay? So that's what I want you to keep in mind, because that sense of being present, like I said, really kind of focusing and paying attention, that's the very basis of mindfulness. That's what we're really going to be talking about, the ability to do, okay? So we're going to go back away from Menti for a little bit. We're back to the PowerPoint screen, okay? So I really tend to think in pictures. That's why I start out with this one, kind of how I describe it. But I was also a professor for a long time, and there are some of you for whom words are really a much more effective way of thinking about things. So I'm going to give you some definitions and some quotes, okay? So I'm going to get you to. All right, so John Kabat-Zinn is actually one of the people most responsible for kind of bringing what's actually a very old understanding. This idea about mindfulness has been around basically forever, but he basically brought it to Western culture and kind of put it into a language and in a way that it was easier for us to grasp and see how this would make a difference in our current lives. So he says, this is what mindfulness is. It's paying attention in a particular way. It has three components. It's on purpose, it's in the present moment, and it's non-judgmentally, okay? That's all it is, and that's all it is, right? Those are three pretty significant things, but it's not really complicated. It's in the present moment, it's on purpose, and it's non-judgmental, okay? Sharon Salzberg, another very popular author who's done a lot to kind of bring mindfulness to us. She's even written one about mindfulness in the workplace. She says mindfulness is the quality of fullness of attention, immediacy, non-distraction. In that sense, it is the key to life. And I just love that phrase, key to life. Like, this idea is something that's going to be able to unlock something for you, to really open up other possibilities and potentials, okay? So that mindfulness can kind of help create some space and give you that necessary key. And then Rick Hanson says it's a clear, non-judgmental awareness of your inner and outer world. And I like this quote because what it emphasizes is something I think people have a misunderstanding about with mindfulness. And that is that it's something you have to like go away to do. You have to like go on retreat or be totally silent, or, you know, it's got to be apart from life. And what I want you to get from this quote, as well as from what we were just talking about with those two characters, is really it's about being attentive to your life. It's about getting out of autopilot and routine and being truly present, right? So it's almost the opposite of that. Now, that's nothing against retreats. Go on retreats, that's all great, but you don't have to do that in order to benefit from mindfulness, okay? All right, so there are some words, we've had pictures, we've had words. It is finding flow, other Laura, exactly. All right, so now I've talked a lot about it. I've showed you pictures, given you definitions. Let's practice a mindful activity, and we're gonna focus on our breath, okay? Now, a few things about this. For one, you're under no obligation to participate, right? If you don't want to, I'm basically gonna be talking during the whole thing, so you can just like sit and listen and kind of decide what it is that you think about it. But if you're open to it, I invite you to participate in this breathing activity. It's basically exactly what it says on this slide. We're gonna inhale for a count of 4, you're gonna hold for a count of 7, and you're gonna exhale for a count of 8. Okay, you're going to do it right where you are, just sitting in the seat where you are. If you want to lie down, you're welcome if you're in a space that you can do that. If you get started in the activity and start feeling kind of uncomfortable with it, you're welcome to, again, just kind of step out of it and just listen and maybe kind of go back later and figure out what brought you out of it. Okay, but if you decide to participate, again, get comfortable. All I would ask is that you not have anything crossed. Okay, don't cross your legs, don't cross your ankles, don't cross your arms, don't cross your fingers, right? Be kind of as open and spacious as you can. When you inhale, I'm going to ask you to do that through your nose. So you're going to close your lips. And this is only if it's possible for you, right? If you've got a cold or something like that and you're not able to inhale just through your nose, that's fine. Still inhale. Then you're going to hold for a count of 7. And then you're going to exhale for a count of 8. And for 8, I want you actually to open your lips and I want you to make some noise. Okay, so maybe you're working remotely and so you're kind of in a space by yourself. I want you to go, just kind of make a whooshing noise when you exhale. Okay, and again, I'm going to be directing you through this whole thing, so you can even close your eyes, or if you have your eyes open, just kind of let them get unfocused, because what I want you to be paying attention to is your breath. Okay, so everything uncrossed, get kind of comfortable, let your eyes either drift shut or you can close them entirely. We're going to do 4 rounds of 4, 7, 8. Okay, you ready? Here we go. I want you to inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, exhale, whoosh, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, close, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, whoosh, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, close, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, whoosh, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, close, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, whoosh, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and then you can kind of shake it off, get readjusted, and then when you get a chance, if in the chat, you'll just put a word or phrase, how was that for you? Okay, and it can be whatever. Right? I won't take it personally. Some people are like, that was weird, or I laughed, or that was relaxing, or that was fun. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Kathy. So I'm going to, while you're entering all of that, I'm going to talk about a few things about this. Now, this was an activity, a breathing activity, specifically that's supposed to help you relax. Okay, there are breathing activities to help you sleep, to help you feel more energized, to help you feel more focused. And I've got some resources at the end that if you're interested in learning more, or maybe want to do it for a particular intention, that you'll be able to find out more information about that. Probably the first time today I unclenched my jaw. I hear that. It's been quite the week. All right. If you found yourself kind of getting out of breath, like this was going too fast, you can always slow down the count. Or if you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta breathe, then you might want to speed it up. The important thing with this particular activity is that you keep the ratio. And in particular, that you want your exhale to be half as long as you want your inhale to be half as long as your exhale. Or to say it another way, your exhale needs to be twice as long as your inhale. Okay, and they do recommend that you not do more than 4 rounds at a time. Okay, so say you notice you've got that clenched jaw and you're like, oh, I remember her saying something about here's how you relax, and you go through this 4, 7, 8. Only do that for a round of 4 and then go do something else. You can always come back to it later, but don't do more than 4 in a row. Okay. All right, so again, you're going to get these slides. Here's the instructions. See if that's something that's helpful for you. Okay, so hopefully I've started maybe convincing you that this mindfulness thing, maybe there's something to it. That was kind of relaxing. I do feel a little bit better. It's starting to make sense that I want to be present in my life, but I don't have time to go on a retreat. What might this look like? So there are some simple ways to incorporate mindfulness just into your daily routine, okay? And I'm going to give you some suggestions, but really the key thing is to remember to be present where you are, right? To kind of that sense of turning into yourself and reflecting on where you're at. So there's a whole mindful eating movement, right? It's actually a much healthier way for us to eat. What would it be like to actually pay attention to the taste and the texture, right? I'm not doing 4 other things while I'm trying to eat. I will say it takes longer for mindful eating, but that gives your brain an opportunity to go, you know what? I'm full. So it's actually a dieting approach. Mindful reading without just skimming for the bold or the headline or the highlighted, right? Really being thoughtful about what am I feeling as I'm reading this? What do I think the intent of the author was? Music, either listening to music or maybe you produce music somehow, you play an instrument or you sing, to give it that amount of kind of focus and attention makes music an entirely different experience. Mindful writing. I will say I haven't figured out how to mindfully type. I have to do an actual writing instrument on paper in order to mindfully write, but that's not to say that you can't figure it out. But again, paying attention instead of doing it kind of on autopilot. What am I trying to say? Where is that coming from? What's going to be the best way for me to get that intention across? Mindful driving. I think this would solve so many traffic problems, right? To maybe even turn off the radio and listen to your car. Notice the feel of the steering wheel under your hands, how much pressure you have to use to either get the car moving or to stop the car, right? To pay attention to that. Mindful connecting. So this is kind of my favorite because I'm a marriage and family therapist by trade, right? So I'm all about this whole relationship thing. So think about the attention that you just gave to your breathing and what that would be like to bring that level of attention to communicating with the person in front of you. What difference might that make in your work, to your partner, to your kids? Okay. Waiting. So I always put waiting in here as a reminder to myself because waiting is one of my least favorite activities, but it's a perfect opportunity to practice my mindfulness, right? Because what else are you going to do? So I'm standing in line at Walmart or I'm sitting at a stoplight. Can I, instead of focusing on how frustrated I am, kind of check in with myself? Ooh, my jaw, my shoulders, right? Maybe I need to breathe a little bit. Mindful walking. Now, a lot of times people think, this is something I do out in nature, which absolutely, that's a great time to do mindful walking. But it could also be in the days where we went to the office, right? Walking from your car into your office. Instead of kind of these are all the things I need to do as soon as I get in, can I look around? Can I notice? Can I see, oh, the tree I pass every day, it's dropped all its leaves or it's changed colors or it's sprouting new leaves. Do I notice other people, right? Mindful walking. So one of my big bugaboos that you'll hear me talk about a few times is this is one of the main culprits in taking us out of our present life, right? Our everyday circumstance. And so please have at least some time every day where you're not looking at a screen. And I know that's even harder now where so much of our relating is done over a screen, right? But sometime every day where you're not looking at a phone, a computer screen, a TV screen, that you're present where you're at. Okay. Now, I know sometimes it's easier said than done. You'll notice mine was right beside me, right? But it is one of the big culprits that pulls us away from where we're at as well. Okay, so those are some ideas about how you might incorporate mindfulness into your everyday life. Hopefully that's kind of prompting some thoughts for you. So maybe I'm convincing you a little bit more. Okay, I can see how this mindfulness thing might fit into my life. I understand that I don't have to go away, that it actually helps me be more present, but really, really, what difference does it make? Well, they've studied about that. So this is a screen showing some functional MRI scans of a person who, before they do a 10-minute meditation and after. So just a couple of things about this. Meditation is basically a formal practice of mindfulness. So it's kind of mindfulness taken up a notch, right? And the people that they did this study with were basically like professional meditators. I think they were literally monks, okay? So this would not be everybody, but it kind of gives you a sense about what's going on in your mind when you practice mindfulness and maybe even try for the meditation step. So on the left is the before. And on these scans, the warmer colors like reds and yellows, indicate lots of activity. Okay. So what I love about this picture is that sense that you have when you've got so much on your mind and you're feeling really overwhelmed and stressed, and it feels like your brain is on fire. It's kind of what it looks like on a scan, right? So maybe we're closer than we thought. So then 10 minutes of meditation later, they scan this person again, and now you'll notice the blues and the greens indicate decreased activity. And you can almost see it's like cooler and more open and more spacious, right? This is that thought bubble on the right where he's kind of allowed to be present where he is because there's not quite so much all going on. So that's like literally what it looks like using a brain scan. But you can't see that every day. What might mindfulness do that you could actually see? Well, here are some of the benefits of a regular mindfulness practice that they've found in research: that focus and clarity of mind, cognitive flexibility and creativity. So think about thought bubble on the right and how much space there was, right? This person can think kind of outside the box because it's not all cluttered and chaotic and distracted, right? It affects your immune system, communication skills. Like I was saying before, being able to be focused and attentive can help with things like conflict and misunderstanding. I like to highlight resiliency because here's the thing: learning and practicing mindfulness is not going to keep bad things from happening. That's not what this is about, I'm afraid. I don't have that particular secret. What it does do is allow for, when things do happen, that you've got kind of this skill that you can reach for that helps you deal with the bad things, right? That we can step away for a minute, be more mindful, clear out the clutter so that you can go back to kind of everyday life and all the things with a different mindset, with a different frame of mind that might allow you to see other options that you hadn't seen before, hear things, understand things that you hadn't been able to before. Okay. Decreases stress and anxiety, cortisol, chronic pain. And the one I really like to focus on is this sense of overdoing. If you've ever had that hamster in a wheel feeling, I'm working really hard and getting nowhere, that's usually a cue to kind of step back and go, oh yeah, maybe I need to stop doing for a minute and just go be where I am, where I can be more present. Okay. All right. So that's mostly been kind of focusing on the personal side of mindfulness, what this might mean for you personally. But another thing I want to talk about is what mindfulness at work might look like. Okay. Some of the things that the research has shown. So Aetna actually had a free mindfulness class and yoga where the employees could go and take advantage of that, like during the workday. And at the time of this study, about a quarter of their employees had participated. And this is the results they found: a 28% reduction in stress, 19% reduction in pain, and 20% improvement in sleep quality. Okay, so on average, they were gaining, this is what the employers are most interested in, right? They're gaining about an hour a week of productivity, and that was worth about $3,000 per employee per year, right? So kind of this outlay and making this mindfulness stuff available to the employees on the one end was resulting for the company in a big savings, and their people are healthier, right? Dow they created an online mindfulness program, which of course more and more places are going to, and we've got more and more resources that are online. So they did about a 6-month program, and they compared a wait list of folks who were interested but not yet doing the mindfulness with the folks who had completed the program. And they found that the folks who completed the program were less stressed, more resilient, and more energetic. Okay, so you can see how being able to kind of clear your mind, make yourself, available to being more creative and outside the box thinking, and kind of having more energy and more space, what a difference that could make for work as well as for personal. So I'm going to assume you're still with me. All right, I can see how this might be beneficial, maybe even, at the workplace. I know you're not at Aetna, you're not at Dow, but that the research is showing that this can make a difference for work. So what might your next step be? We've talked about some things in an earlier slide about what you might do on a daily basis. You're going to get a couple of handouts that have even more suggestions, right? That could be just little bitty things. One of them is to drink your morning coffee or tea mindfully, right? Instead of just kind of gulping it down while you're doing other things. So my challenge to you would be to pick 1 or 2 things, nothing huge, right? And commit to it for the next week, right? And then kind of revisit and see what difference maybe that makes. I'm going to take 10 minutes out of my day at work and practice this kind of mindfulness thing, maybe do a couple of different activities, and then go back to work and see how that is, or whatever that's going to look like for you. Because, and this is one of my favorite authors, and she has a quote that says, "Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you." And that's kind of what this mindfulness idea is, right? Unplugging from all the chaos, plug into being more present, being more focused, and then what that might look like. And the reason I love this quote is because it always makes me giggle, because when you call IT, this is what they tell you every single time. I had IT trouble earlier today, and they were like, we need to reboot, right? It kind of clears out the cache and allows wherever it was getting stuck to kind of flow more freely. Not that we're machines, but this same principle does kind of apply when we think about the benefits of mindfulness. Okay. All right. So it's going to be your turn again. What I'd like to hear from you is what have you heard about? What have you tried? What have you maybe thought about? And we're going to do it on Menti again. So I want you to go back to that screen, and I'm going to, all right. So you should see this new slide, says, what mindfulness at work have you seen or tried? And you'll have, I think you've got up to 3 opportunities to just put in there either things that you're thinking about trying, or maybe that you've tried in the past, or that you've heard about and might be willing to, I don't know, talk with your coworkers or your supervisor about. Taking a break. Yep. Go walk. There is something about getting your physical body involved as well that can be beneficial, because we know we're learning more and more that the mind and the body, there's no real separating them. Lots of walking, loving kindness meditation. So there, it sounds like somebody who's actually studied some of this. There are particular kinds of meditation that they're not all just sitting there going that if you've got a particular intent or purpose that you'd like to accomplish. Crying alone in the dark and pretending it's allergies. Oh, I'm hoping that this will give you some other alternatives, right? 10 minutes on the exercise bike, okay? And focusing on what the exercise feels like, right? Really being present in your body. Lots of walking. Ergonomic software. I'm going to talk in just a second about how technology can be helpful to us in the stuff. Park as far away from the door as possible. Walk in without thinking about work or the commute, right? That's kind of the challenge. Mountain biking. That sounds awesome. This time of year, it might be a little hard. Breathing exercises. Good. Excellent. All right. So you guys have got some good ideas. This might be something you want to get together and kind of brainstorm about what all of the options might be. Some of these going for a walk during the day, you might even do together, right? And kind of keep each other accountable. So thank you very much for doing that. I'm going to bring us back to this slide so that I'm going to share just a few things that we found works, or that research has shown works, that will kind of help get this going. And it's just, again, kind of little bitty things. You might already be doing this stuff. For you to model daily mindfulness, right? When your coworkers or employers, employees see that you're making time for this, or that you find that this is important, they're more likely to follow through on it as well. To dedicate times for answering email. So our brains work better if we have set times where we're focusing on one task and then we take a break. And this whole idea of notifications, where you get the little ping or the little flag shows up on your computer screen, that pulls you out of where you're at. So if it's an option for you, and I understand not all workplaces operate this way, but if it's an option for you, let people know I respond to emails during this time of the day, right? Maybe you've got 2 blocks during the day, and I will respond to you at that time, but no, I'm not going to be able to respond to you in 30 seconds like you might be used to. And to turn off those pop-up and push notifications if you're trying to stay focused on something. Creating spaces for mindfulness or quiet. This just might be a corner in your office. You might have the space to have like a whole nother room where you can go and there's no distractions. You might have pillows, you might have music, whatever you find kind of helps you stay present and declutter. Discourage multitasking. I know it's the temptation and kind of the way we feel like everything has to be done in order to get everything done, but it actually winds up, we don't pay 100% attention to any one thing, and so everything is losing out. And like I said, our brains just don't really operate that way. So it may seem counterintuitive to not do things for a while that will help you be more productive if you can kind of be more focused and set things aside. Focusing on gratitude. This could be its own presentation, but the research has shown that what you put your energy towards, what you focus on, tends to be what's more present in your life, right? So if all we're focused on is all the bad and all the negative and all the stuff that's going wrong, that's kind of all we can see. So taking some time to focus on what is good and what we are grateful for actually can help turn things around, literally, not in a Pollyanna sort of way, right? Like I'm just going to ignore all the bad stuff, but that it starts making space for the good things and what we can control. Laura, you seem like you've studied this stuff quite a bit. Very good. Again, could be its own presentation about only focus on the stuff that you can control, letting the rest of it go. And I understand that's more than just a song. Structuring meetings for focus. Again, with so much being virtual, it's in a way even easier than ever before for us to be distracted, right? I can be listening to this meeting with half an ear while I'm answering email, or I'm checking my text, or I'm, whatever. As much as possible, make the rule for yourself, for whoever you're meeting with, this is what we're doing. And we're not going to pay attention to other things so that we can stay focused on this. And it's a good idea to have somebody taking notes, taking minutes, right? So that we can make sure that all of us heard and understood the same things from this meeting, okay? So you may have other tips and tricks that you have figured out that are really helpful, just maybe even some little simple, I'm scarily accurate, been there, done that, right? So just a few little things. Feel free in the chat if you want to put some stuff in there, some suggestions that you found that's been helpful for you. Now, I know I kind of talked down the phone earlier, which in general, I really do think we spend too much time with it. But one of the things it does allow for is if you're interested in trying mindfulness or trying meditation, there are now so many ways for you to access this information and basically have the program help you walk through the different activities. I have just listed a few here. There are many, many. And there are also many different kinds and purposes for meditation and mindfulness. And so what I would encourage you to do is to try a few different apps. Almost all of them have like a free portion. Try it out. See if that's the one that fits for you. And if it doesn't, go try the next one. The thing a lot of people do to sabotage themselves is they take off too big of a bite, right? Even though mindfulness is just those 3 little things, this takes practice. It's like a muscle that you have to exercise. So please don't start out with 10 minutes of mindfulness. Okay, that's actually a good long while in mindfulness. That activity we did was like a minute and a half, right? So don't feel like you have to go into it and do this big, huge chunk. Try out a few that are very short, fairly simple. See what fits for you and kind of follow that train. Okay. All right. These are some resources. Again, you're going to get these slides. Don't worry about what it says right now, but I just want you to know these are some resources that are specific to mindfulness at work. Okay, different studies, different companies that have been able to make this something really beneficial that you can look into and learn more about. This is going to be your time to ask questions. So I encourage you, and YouTube, I didn't even think about YouTube, Marty. That's good. So not just apps, but also stuff on the internet. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'm going to go through a couple more slides, but you can do that while we're doing this. Here are some other mindfulness resources, kind of about mindfulness in general. I have touched on just the barely tip top, right? There's a whole lot more to this. There's lots and lots of good information out there. Here's a few places for you to get started. If you're at all intrigued with what I had to say today, I really encourage you to go explore a little bit more. And this is just more, the contact information for me or my company if you're interested in learning more about us. So, the 10% Happier podcast and app, yes, is great. Mindfulness, well, I didn't know if anybody else did that, but me too. Mindfulness while brushing your teeth, right? You got to do it anyway, supposedly, right? Supposed to. You can't really be doing anything else. What would it be like to mindfully brush your teeth? What else? What other sorts of ideas that you guys have? These have all been great. Insight timer. Everybody, I think, has their favorite. Oak. I had never heard of oak before. My favorite is calm, but it really just depends on your what you find that really fits for you. And luckily right now we have lots and lots to choose from. Better teeth and mindfulness. That's right. That's right. Good. Do you have any questions for me? Or any suggestions or thoughts about what you'd like to share with the group? Oh, you're very welcome. Okay. Clear your mind and brush. Yeah. Hum. I have a friend, she's like, I can't remember what she said. That's an A when she hears the electronic toothbrush. Yes. Or you can hum. Yes. You're very welcome. All right. I really appreciate all your participation. That helps make things better on my end, particularly with it being virtual and I can't see anybody. So thanks very much for your time and attention. Have a great symposium. Sounds like you guys have got some excellent stuff coming up. So I'm going to turn it back over Marty or whoever's next.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
I think sometimes when we think about mindfulness, that we're thinking that it has to be some huge involved thing that we have to do, when there's so many smaller things that we can do that can make a dramatic difference. So we really appreciate that, giving us a perspective and some things to think about. And we will be, like Laura said, we'll be sending out her handouts to everybody that participated. So I just want to thank you again. We'll be sending out some more information about other pre-conference sessions on the list tomorrow. So watch for that. And again, Laura, I just want to thank you so much for presenting to us today.
You're very welcome. You guys take care. Let us know if we can help with anything.
We'll do it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And we'll thanks again for everybody who attended, and we will talk to everybody soon. And everybody just have a fantastic day.